Sean Hannity from 1 till 4 on News Talk KVNU 102 FM and 610 AM.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by U&I Furniture. A 65-year-old Lewiston man will not serve any jail time for viewing child pornography on his work computer more than 5 years ago. Gregory Baker was ordered to complete community service and continue treatment after a judge recognized the defendant had already been on house arrest for 2.5 years. Baker was sentenced during a virtual hearing in First District Court this morning, appearing by web conference with his attorney. He previously pleaded guilty to one count of attempted sexual exploitation of a minor, a third-degree felony. Defense attorney Greg Scabland said his client was remorseful for what he had done and had completed several treatment programs for an addiction to pornography. He asked the court to avoid sentencing the defendant to any time behind bars. Baker said he became addicted to porn while using his work computer. It led to him viewing child pornography before being caught by the company's IT department. He said his addiction had caused misery and shame for his wife and family. He also recognized the innocent children who were being victimized because of his actions. Cache County Deputy Attorney Jacob Gordon disagreed with Scabland. He asked the court to sentence Baker to 30 days in jail because of the severity of the crime. Judge Angela Fonsbeck said Baker had been on house arrest for over 30 months while the case proceeded against him through the court. Without downplaying the seriousness of the crime, she noted that pretrial probation was longer than a jail sentence would have been. She ordered the defendant to complete 40 hours of community service, pay a $750 fine, and complete treatment. KVNU News Time is 5:07. KVNU weather for tonight: cloudy, slight chance of rain this evening, then rain after midnight. 90% chance. Rain likely Tuesday morning, then a chance of rain showers in the afternoon tomorrow, mostly cloudy, high temperature in the lower 50s. Becoming partly cloudy Tuesday night, and then partly cloudy, and then mostly sunny on Wednesday, mid-50s for the high. It's been to 59. It's 50 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. Bring back the sounds you've been missing. Schedule a free hearing evaluation with Dr. Paul Daines at Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
As you've noticed, the season has changed, and the holidays are coming, and so are your guests. You need beds for them to sleep in and a new couch to sit on. Well, with family and friends coming, U&I Furniture is the place to help you be ready. Find the popular-selling queen-size therapeutic mattress for only $399. Or here's an idea. Move the bed you're sleeping on to the guest room and upgrade your mattress. See all the chairs, too, at U&I's Chair Heaven. Accent chairs, lift chairs, and, of course, recliners. There's always a better buy at U&I Furniture in downtown Logan.
KVNU News Time is 5:08. Utah State University officials are advising students to be on the lookout for a possible peeping Tom around the Logan campus. Administrators issued a code blue alert this afternoon to students, faculty, and staff. USU police report that over the last few months, the Logan City Police Department has received several incidents of an individual peeking in windows. Most of the events were reported in the Adams Elementary School neighborhood from 400 North to 1000 North, 500 East to 800 East. The alert clarified that even though the locations are not on campus, many USU students live in that area. Law enforcement for both agencies asks students to be proactive in protecting their personal safety and to report suspicious behavior. Logan City Police regards the incidents as crimes of opportunity, which are best prevented by removing easy options for the suspect. The alert also provided several recommendations, such as lock doors and windows when you leave and when you are home, close blinds or drapes after dark, keep the exterior of your residence well lit, pair up in groups while walking, and consider using the Utah State Safe app in order to ask USU Public Safety to track you as you walk to or from campus. and also report suspicious activity on campus, you can call USU Police at 435-797-1939. Off campus, call Logan City Police at 435-753-7555. And a man is in the hospital as of this morning with a gunshot wound after being shot by a West Jordan officer on Halloween night. According to police, it started around 9 p.m. when a 911 call came in about a domestic violence incident, one involving a firearm. Officials arrived at the location. Fox 13 reports when they arrived, some sort of a confrontation happened, and at least one shot was fired and a man was hit. The man was then rushed to a local hospital, while the one officer who fired his weapon is now the subject of an officer-involved critical incident protocol investigation. West Valley City Police detectives are now handling that investigation, and the West Jordan officer will be on leave pending the outcome. KVNU News Time is 5:11. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Hi, everyone. It's Congressman Blake Moore here. With Medicare open enrollment in full swing, I want to help you confidently choose the Medicare plan that will best serve your needs. On Thursday, November 4th at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, I am hosting a telephone town hall with experts from Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. If you have any questions regarding Medicare, coverage plans, or individual concerns, please join us. The number to dial in, 833-305-1678, and all the details can be found on our website at blakemore.house.gov. Thank you. Paid for by official funds authorized by the U.S. House of Representatives.
With so much financial uncertainty, are you wondering if your retirement savings will last? The market's ups and downs can keep you guessing, especially if you're approaching retirement or considering it. If you have more questions than answers about what's next, your Edward Jones financial advisor can help you prepare for your journey. After all, retirement isn't the end of the trek, it's a new beginning. Visit edwardjones.com or stop by your local Edward Jones office. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
The day may be done, but you're still not finished. Sound familiar? Taking care of life's business doesn't always happen at the most convenient times. At D.L. Evans Bank, we've made sure it's easy for you to access and manage your banking wherever, whenever. Making sure the way you bank improves the way you live. That's been our way since 1904. In times like these, it's good to have a bank like this. D.L. Evans Bank. This is community banking.
Hey, it's Al Lewis. We all know buttons make our lives easier. But if you have sleep apnea and can't use CPAP, did you know there's a button that can help you go from this to this? It's called Inspire. It's a small device that works inside your body with just the click of a remote. That's right, a button. If you struggle with CPAP, great sleep awaits at InspireSleep.com. Inspire. Sleep apnea innovation. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you. And review important safety information at InspireSleep.com.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. Besides the governor's race in Virginia, a look at several other closely watched elections around the country that could provide a preview of the nation's mood ahead of next year's midterms. Also, in today's car market, there are bidding wars on used minivans and surprising benefits of eating leftover pumpkins. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. I forgot I had a music request for Hour 2, Bill. Now it's too late.
Oh.
I'll just have to sing it. Hour 2.
That would be interesting.
A lot of people changing their stations. Hour 2 of today's show, Monday, November 1st. I'm Jason Williams. He's Bill Walter. Thank you for tuning in. I've been waiting since the show started to be able to talk about this because I find it fascinating, and it's a lot more important than most people think. You're affected by this more than you'd realize. But redistricting is being discussed right now. The boundaries, political boundaries for school boards or school districts, state and legislative house, which state Senate district you're in, which state House representatives represent you. And then, of course, the one everybody does find some energy to pay attention to, the congressional districts, the federal delegates. That gets the most debate and understandably is also the most controversial in any state when redistricting happens every 10 years. But the school districts are far more important. When they move those boundaries, you could suddenly find yourself, and thousands of Utahns are going to, regardless of which map is chosen by the legislative committee in the end, thousands of Utahns are going to find, which, isn't a lot compared to population, but still, that's thousands of families going to find themselves suddenly in a different school district. Kids are going to have to go, and you can make requests to work with the districts to make arrangements and stuff like that so kids don't go 2 years at one high school, 2 at another, which could actually be traumatic for a teenager. But still, that's just an example that I'll give of why this redistricting process is important. It has to happen. Populations grow or shrink. That has happened in a couple of spots in Utah. And that means that fair representation has to adapt and change with the changes in population. So it's a constitutional mandate. Every 10 years, a nationwide redistricting effort will be underway. And each state legislature gets to decide in the end what their maps look like. That is also constitutionally mandated by the state constitution here in Utah. So in the end, lawmakers, the entire House and Senate will get the final say on which political boundaries map is adopted in this 10-year process. But the new thing this year is that voters, unhappy with what the last 2 go-rounds have produced here in Utah, created what it produced basically is a map that was pretty decent on the local level, school districts and state and house districts and things like that. A couple of eyebrow raisers here in Utah, just 2, where you could at least suspect the lawmakers drew a political boundary to keep an incumbent in office, but only a couple out of, 80, 90 different boundaries they have to draw. So not bad. Far worse than other states. The congressional districts, the federal delegates, that's where things get really hinky here in Utah. The last 2 go-rounds where it's pretty hard to justify where the lines are drawn in any reasonable way other than to say, you wanted to dilute Salt Lake City. You wanted to take Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County, which is the only blue area in the state, and divvy it up, mix it in with redder areas so that you had only Republicans getting elected to the United States Congress from Utah. Now, some defend this and say, spoils of political war. It's winning election. If you don't like this, win elections. The problem is that blue states also do this. Democrats in blue states do the same thing as Republicans here in Utah. And the people who pay for it are voters. And that's where this whole anti-gerrymandering push every 10 years gets really important. Because what this is supposed to be about is getting people in districts where, for example, they have, and these are somewhat arbitrary, but there have to be some rules somehow, right? But they have population thresholds for how many people you could see. For political reasons, a state might draw a congressional boundaries map that protects all the incumbents or protects the majority party, make sure that their candidates are going to get elected to the United States Congress. But to do so, they have to put 700,000 people in this district and 12 people in this district. Now, that's an extreme example, but Alabama got close. You can see how that disenfranchises the people. So there are numbers thresholds left and right here in Utah that are pretty reasonable. There's an argument that we should... I've thought for a long time the state house needs to expand. There needs to be more state house members. Mainly because we're getting to a point population-wise where it's not realistic that every citizen that wants to is able to get time with their citizen lawmaker representative in the state house. I don't know if we're there yet. I know we have to be close to it in a lot of areas. And so I think we need more House representatives here in Utah to keep that population to lawmaker mix healthier. But that's an example, again, of some of the legitimate concerns that might lead to a political boundary moving, a district getting geographically smaller or larger, things like that. So there's going to be change. And as former State Senator Lyle Hilliard told us last time he was here talking about this with us, you're not going to make everyone happy. That's unrealistic as well. So with all that in mind, lawmakers today are receiving still going on, in about 20 minutes, it'll be 4 hours of what was supposed to be a 2-hour meeting, I think. They'll start at 2 o'clock today. They will start just a little before 2 with a presentation from something new this year, a voter-created by ballot initiative independent redistricting committee. The redistricting committee is presenting using the wrong words here. The redistricting commission, created by voters via ballot initiative in 2018, and then defanged by the legislature because how dare voters tell them what to do, right? They are presenting this commission, independent commission, is today presenting 12 choices for maps in a legislative committee meeting, an official meeting of the Utah Legislative Redistricting Committee. So commission, committee, those are the differences. The committee is the official legislative committee. The commission is the voter-created advising committee. What's supposed to happen here by the legislature's own design, what voters wanted was the independent commission would choose the maps. There's no way lawmakers were going for that. Their reasons got pretty creative, but we all know what the reasons are. And so they took some of the teeth out of that. So the commission, as created by voters to have final say, now just gets to make some recommendations. The legislature, their committee, will have final say. They're the ones that will sign off on a set of maps for, again, everything: school districts, state and House, Senate, federal representatives in the congressional districts. And they will then send that on to the full body for an official vote in a special redistricting session. By the time that happens, it's all over. It's all said and done. The vote is a formality at that point. There will probably be some debate and some questions, but it's a formality once the maps have been chosen by the legislative committee, which will happen within the next week, maybe 2. So today the commission is again presenting maps and taking questions from lawmakers. As they're being presented, some of the questions, for example, Representative Lund was one of the first lawmakers to ask a question of this independent panel, which, by the way, includes our own former state senator Lyle Hilliard. It did include, up until last week, our own former Congressman Rob Bishop. He resigned in a huff and has since been replaced by the House Speaker who put him on the panel by, I can't remember the man's name, somebody. But Representative Lund asked the first question of lawmakers coming for this independent committee today. And he asked them to define communities of interest. And he said, Park City, he gave a great example. And this I think lays out how complicated this is. He gave a great example of Park City, which, if you consider it from a political partisan point of view, is probably bluer than Salt Lake, just fewer in number, population-wise. But geographically, economically, it probably actually has more in common with the Uinta Basin. So he pointed to these 2 different maps that they have, a choice of. And these are just 2 of hundreds that have been submitted by the public. By one map that got a lot of discussion today was submitted by a grad student at the University of Utah, a data analyst, basically, who sent in maps that map is going to be really hard for the legislature to ignore because it matches very closely what the independent commission was presenting today as well. So you've got two independent commission and a data analyst grad student who said, if you look at just the population numbers, which is all they're supposed to look at, this is what the map looks like. Lawmakers are never going to adopt that map because it carves out Salt Lake and Salt Lake County as a pretty solid blue district in the congressional maps. They will never go for that. But compelling argument from two different sources that if you look at just the numbers, population numbers, which is all you're supposed to look at, that's what the map looks like. That ate up nearly an hour and a half of all the time that they have spent discussing this today. That one point, which began again with Representative Lund from the Utah House, a Republican, saying geographically, economically, Park City has more in common with the Uinta Basin, but you can't put them in the same state house district because their concerns are so different. The price of housing, for example, in Park City is so different to the price of housing in Uinta Basin. How would one lawmaker navigate, having conversations with developers in those two areas that are going to be coming from two very different points of view? And that was just one example given. Rep. Lund wasn't in any way trying to imply that lawmakers should only be listening to developers, though some argue that is what happens. What he was trying to say is this is pretty complex. There are all these factors to consider, like communities of interest. What does that even mean? Well, that's going to mean something to one person that it doesn't mean to another person. Some people here in Cache Valley, for example, are going to say communities of interest would be, more rural areas in the Trenton, Amalga, places like that. They're not going to want to be lumped into a state house district with downtown Logan City. There are issues and needs and challenges in the next few years that an elected representative is supposed to not only hear but then take to the legislature and try to resolve through statute in any way possible. They're so different. How is one representative going to meet the needs of both communities? But at the same time, if you cut the more rural areas off into their own, this is the counter argument, if you cut the more rural areas off into their own districts, separate from the more urban districts, you're going to end up with a state legislature in which, just by sheer fact, the urban district representatives are going to far outnumber the rural district representatives, which is, again, a fact. If you just drew boundaries for, say, state house around with considerations like, well, this is a metropolitan area, this is a farming community, that should be a district in and of itself, not mixed with the metropolitan area, because their needs and interests and concerns are going to be so different, they should have their own representative. And that makes sense, right? There's even something that seems philosophically, politically right about that. If an area is rural, it should have its own representative to speak to their unique needs and concerns when the state meets for 45 days in a legislative session. But again, the counter argument, also compelling, that you then isolate these communities. And if you do that, as the Wasatch Front, for example, grows and gets more representatives because of population growth, these rural communities are just going to be increasingly outnumbered, considering the fact that when the legislature passes something, it requires that majority vote. So you have one day down the road, 7 lawmakers from rural communities and 70 from urban communities, and you run into an issue where rural interests are butting up against metropolitan interests, urban interests. Well, the urban people are going to win every time because there's going to be more votes in the House. That to me is the perfect way to understand the near impossibility of fair redistricting. And that's what the legislature has spent the entire day discussing today. A lot of terms that, like LEAs and things like that, thrown around, but basically what they're discussing is what's going to be a priority. Acknowledging you're not going to be able to make everyone happy, acknowledging that some communities are going to get the shaft, basically, what should the priorities be? That's what they're discussing right now. You can listen to this as it's still ongoing at le.utah.gov. But here are some quick highlights. The maps being presented, Representative Candice Pierucci said she made a great reference today to one district in Tooele County that is shaped, kind of looks like a goat in the way it's shaped on this map. And she said, why is that? What's the justification for that? And the answer is basically balancing numbers. To try and create representative House districts for the Utah State House in which, as much as possible, you have districts with matching population numbers, or at least as close as possible, you had to draw some districts that look like goats when seen on a map. Another one that was a little controversial today, got a lot of discussion, was a look at a district proposal that would have put parts of Tooele in with Box Elder County cities, which seems geographically like a dumb idea, but population-wise and communities of interest concerns factored in, you can see how it could actually make sense. None of this is finalized. The ink is still wet on all of this, but the maps have officially been presented by the Independent Redistricting Committee. Still being discussed with questions coming from lawmakers and the public in this now lengthy, coming up on 4 hours, committee hearing. And then the legislature will take the recommendations from the Independent Commission created by voters, and they will meet behind closed door, and they will choose the map within the next week or two, and then there will be a special session and a vote, and it will be done. So the reason I bring all this up is that I can't describe these maps to you here on the radio. You're going to have to see them. You should see them. They're all available now officially at le.utah.gov as they were submitted at the start of this committee as actual documents for an official public meeting. But they're also available via the Utah Redistricting Independent Commission website. You can find them a couple of different ways. There is the Utah Redistricting Committee official website, urc.utah.gov, and that is where you can download these maps. And then they've also been putting them out on Twitter, which you can find at twitter.com/Utah Redistrict. That's the handle for the Independent Committee. So check them out, look at these maps, and then here's the important part. Within the next week, if you have an opinion about these maps, if you see the boundary for your school district, for your House district, Senate district, any of that, and you don't like it, and you want to explain why you think that should be reconsidered or not, if you support it, then email your lawmakers. Lawmakers are going to 100% be going off of what they hear from constituents on this. So check it out. The maps are officially submitted at this point, urc.utah.gov, or find on Twitter the account, twitter.com/Utah Redistrict. Download the maps, look at your local area, school boards, House representatives, and more. See what you think, and reach out, preferably by email, they said today, to your lawmakers. 753-5868. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, this is Drew Allen with Allen Mortuaries. Over the years, thousands of families have planned ahead with Allen Mortuaries. Planning ahead helps you make informed and thoughtful decisions. It also spares your family the stress of making these decisions under the pressure of time and strong emotions. Allen Mortuaries' secure pre-need trust plan can save you nearly 40% versus other plans. Keep it simple, safe, and secure. Go with the proven choice, Allen Mortuaries. Voted best funeral home in Cache Valley in northern Utah. Allen Mortuaries. Then, now, always.
Pristine wilderness can still be found in the West, where creeks run freely and historic apple trees still bear fruit. Maple Creek Ranch features breathtaking canyon views and opportunities for real estate development. 2.5-acre lots are now available with adjacent wilderness areas that provide endless riding and recreational possibilities. So find your piece of paradise just 35 minutes from Logan at Maple Creek Ranch. Schedule your appointment online at maplecreekranch.net.
There's a lot going on right now, and broadcasters are on the ground covering all of it, bringing you the weather, the traffic, and breaking news, all while entertaining you 24 hours a day. Someone needs to tell you what's going on around the world and in our hometowns. And that someone is us. We are free radio. We are always there. We are broadcasters. Visit wearebroadcasters.com or text radio to 52886 to learn more. Furnished by NAB and this station.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. I could talk so long about redistricting. I got us way off the clock, so I'll try and get us back on the clock.
You got us into
here.
another district.
Yeah, another district.
The 5:30 to 5:45 district. Yes.
No, we'll quickly go to the news here. Before we do this, I wanted to make this announcement anyway. This is a perfect time for it. But I had a conversation with David Irish of the Aggie Creamery today, and I can't spoil a lot here. It is going to kick off in January. They're going to be celebrating throughout the year of 2022. They're celebrating 100 years of the Aggie Creamery. That's amazing. And they're doing this in a lot of cool ways. Again, I've not been authorized to leak anything other than...
Now, we had him on this past May on For the People.
Talking about the upcoming...
Yeah, it was still upcoming, but now those events that they're planning are that much closer.
They're coming together. They've got some details. And so let me just... this is what I can say. Giveaways, events, competitions, and regular visits here in the studio with us, in which we'll be highlighting some of the people who have benefited from the creamery.
They'll bring ice cream, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
that was the other promise. They promised to bring us ice cream. We'll have giveaways for listeners. We'll have from gift certificates to T-shirts and all of that. And we're going to be doing this once a month here on For the People throughout the year as they celebrate 100 years of Aggie Creamery. And there are going to be a lot of other events happening afternoons, evenings, and weekends every month of the year. They have been working on this for a long time, and I got some details today. Again, I've not been authorized to announce anything specific, so I can't give you dates or times, but this is a really cool celebration, I'll put it this way, and we're happy that For the People is going to be a part of it. And again, that will kick off. We're going to be doing this the first Monday of every month here on the show starting in January with Dave Irish of the Creamery and special guests that he'll bring in with him. So just finalize those talks today.
Wonder if he could bring cherry chocolate chip on the first one. Visit.
We'll see if he can take requests. All right. We'll be back with more of For the People right after this look at the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:37. This look at the news brought to you by the Duck Hunter. A 25-year-old Hiram man has pleaded guilty to downloading child pornography over the Internet. Trey Stenland accepted a plea deal to lesser charges and will be sentenced next month. Stenland participated in a virtual hearing in First District Court this afternoon. Appearing with his attorney, he pleaded guilty to 5 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor, a second-degree felony. Defense attorney David Perry explained that as part of the plea agreement, prosecutors dropped 5 remaining charges against the defendant. In April 2020, Logan City police officers received a cyber tip explaining that Stenland was using a file-sharing service to trade child pornography. The account contained 100 suspected files. Some of the material involved children as young as 4 to 5 years old. Police officers served the warrant to Stenland's home and questioned him. They also secured his cell phone as evidence. Stenland told officers he had been trading pornography through file-sharing sites because he's interested in amateur pornography, not staged or professionally produced pornography. He said if the links he received had any files depicting underage people, he would delete them. During today's hearing, Cache County Deputy Attorney Ronnie Keller explained that when officers went through Stenland's phone during the interview, they found at least 5 files of child pornography. Judge Brandon Maynard accepted Stenland's plea deal. He ordered him to be sentenced December 13th. He's currently out of jail after posting $10,000 bail, and he could face up to 15 years in prison. And state officials say they have changed the way state-owned liquor stores in Idaho sell rare bottles of alcohol after instances of hoarding, illegal reselling, and bad behavior by customers. The Idaho State Liquor Division late last month announced new rules involving rare but highly sought-after bourbons, whiskeys, and other small batch liquor offerings. That combination has resulted in what the agency calls unsavory behavior by some customers. That includes harassment of store workers. The new rules mean the agency will now sporadically allocate rare products across its 67 retail outlets. The agency has also stopped listing rare product inventory on its website. KVNU News Time is 5:40.
Did you know a block dryer vent is a real fire hazard? According to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, there are tens of thousands of dryer exhaust duct fires annually, leading to many injuries and death. You should have your dryer hose and the area around it cleaned once a year, and inspect the vent and hose for any blockages at least every 6 months. Don't wait for disaster to strike because your dryer vent is blocked. Give John Henson a call at the Duct Hunter. Call 770-4813 today.
Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duct Hunter.
KVNU weather for tonight: cloudy skies, a slight chance of rain this evening, then rain after midnight, low around 40, chance of rain 90%. Rain likely Tuesday morning, then a chance of rain in the afternoon tomorrow, cloudy and into the lower 50s. It's been to 59. It's 50 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by U&I Furniture. Guests may be coming for the holidays. Be ready with a queen-size therapeutic mattress, only $399. And U&I Furniture is chair heaven. All kinds of chairs, accent chairs, lift chairs, and, of course, recliners. Always a better buy at U&I, 28 West, 1st North, downtown Logan. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Thank you for voting Adams Wealth Advisors the gold winner for Best Financial Planner in the Best of Northern Utah competition. Understanding your family, jobs, and goals is how Adams Wealth Advisors will continue to earn your trust.
This is Craig Adams. At Adams Wealth Advisors, we are here to help you receive peace of mind whether you've done a lot of planning or a little planning. Count on our team at Adams Wealth Advisors for honesty, professionalism, and integrity.
Visit AdamsWealthAdvisors.com or call 752-1702 to schedule a time with an advisor today. Please see AdamsWealthAdvisors.com for more information on these recent awards.
If you think it's expensive to hire a professional, just wait until you hire an amateur.
Why the heck is the roof leaking? Larry, you said you got it fixed.
I thought it was fixed, Donna. Everything was fine until it started raining.
Larry, that's the point of fixing the roof, is so we can actually live here when it's stormy outside.
This is David with Roof Rescue. Our experienced roofing team is tried and true and will fix your roof guaranteed. Visit roofrescueusa.com to schedule your free roof inspection. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
I'm Larry Gelwigs, the getaway guru for Morris Columbus Travel and Delta Vacations, with special discounts to Hawaii, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Europe. Then add to your discount your choice of up to $350 additional savings or up to 75,000 extra Delta Sky Miles. For details, contact your favorite Morris Columbus Travel office.
Come on and get away, Morris Columbus.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. I forgot my music request again. Sorry, every time I hear the generic...
You were going to sing it. You were going to sing it, right?
Yeah, I was... I've just been in a Beatles and heyday... Beatles heyday era music mood lately. So I was going to request that for the show today, and here we are with 15 minutes left, and I've forgotten. Tomorrow, maybe. I'm putting in my request early. Can we hear a lot of Beatles and similar era music tomorrow on the show?
Of course.
As we do our Election Day coverage. But, one thing, I'm a big fan of mail-in voting, and Utah has proven many, many cycles in a row now. It can be done safely and securely. It did kind of ruin Election Day. We used to do these all-nighter Election Day shows. I remember being here until midnight, 1 in the morning with Tom and Ryan, Tyler Riggs, and it was a lot of fun. And then we get calls from, city officials, county officials, state officials, giving us updates on, the count so far, and if there were any races that could be called. So I really do miss that. Mail-in voting has kind of ruined that, but at the same time, it gets more people voting, and it's technically has extended early voting just because you get your ballots a month in advance. So I prefer it this way, but I do miss those election night coverage events. That said, a listener chiming in, I'd mentioned this in hour one, but a listener asking if there was going to be election night coverage here. As returns come back, I really don't think there are going to be any big surprises. That's as much as I'm going to say. I don't think there's going to be any big surprises. The one that maybe is Prop 1 in Providence. From what I'm hearing, I'm kind of expecting that Prop 1 will get the thumbs up from voters, which means this mixed-use development will continue, not be halted. But I have no scientific data to go off of. That's purely anecdotal. But so that could be the surprise. I think everything else is probably going to turn out the way you would predict if forced to. But that said, as the returns do start to come in, we do get an early notification from cities as they process ballots, and so as soon as we hear anything, you'll be able to hear it here during our news breaks throughout the evening tomorrow night. And at CacheValleyDaily.com, they usually the news team there keeps a running update throughout the evening as returns come in. So, so there will be, I would guess, more than a few races that you'll know the results of tomorrow evening, just after polls close. Some unofficial results, of course. They have a few days, up to a week, I think, maybe 10 days afterwards to actually certify it. So. Another listener wanting to get back to, I briefly mentioned it. I guess I should have spent more time on it, considering it's in our neck of the woods. Listener chiming in via the chat saying, wait, what? Mixing Tooele County with Box Elder County in this redistricting thing? Yeah, it's... so tomorrow on the show, former State Senator Lyle Hilliard and current member of this independent redistricting commission created by voters, he'll be with us tomorrow, and he'll be able to explain this much better than I can. But here's my short attempt at explaining this. It's to meet the things that redistricting is supposed to consider, which is population growth, keeping communities of interest together in the same district as much as possible. Although, of course, it's never going to be fully possible, as much as possible. And so the proposal was, in one of these maps forwarded today by the Independent Commission, was that a Tooele County district, a district located in Tooele County, would actually be roped into a House district that would include parts of Box Elder County. And, if you've ever seen a map, there's a big lake between the two. You've maybe heard of it. It's... So that seems weird, right, to do that? If you think about it, the from the communities of interest perspective, Box Elder County and Tooele County have a lot more in common than Tooele County has with Salt Lake County, which is next door to Tooele County. But also population-wise, it kind of makes sense because it would actually give this district more equal footing with... when it comes to competing with the urban interests of Salt Lake representatives during a legislative session. So it does make sense, but it's a great example of why redistricting is, I think, difficult to comprehend, but also why it's so easy to cheat and just gerrymander for some lawmakers, protection of incumbents, where you're more concerned about making sure incumbents get reelected than you are actually drawing districts that are good for people and good for communities. It's because it's this confusing. So you can throw anything out there, and if you have a good enough excuse, everybody nods and says, oh, okay. And this is an example of something that could be that. To me, this actually makes sense. putting a part of Tooele County in with Box Elder County in a single, and it may be, looking at this map, it's either going to be half of Tooele County or the entirety of Tooele County would be in a single House district with Box Elder County, who are geographically, many miles apart compared, but the alternative would be to put Tooele County in with parts of Salt Lake County, which doesn't make sense from a community of interest perspective. It's complicated stuff. Senator Scott Sandel from up here in Box Elder and part of Cache Valley in his district, he is the chair of the legislative committee that will make the final decision on this, the committee that's hearing from the independent commission today. And he expressed some concern today. As chair of this committee, you have to assume he wields some decision-making power, right, in all of this. And one of the concerns he expressed today was what he called a lot of jagged lines in House districts. The Utah Redistricting Commission chair, Rex Facer, said that the reason some of the districts in the independent committee's maps submitted today, commission's maps were submitted today, the reason some of those boundaries were so jagged is he said that was the only way to meet the deviations in population, to basically make the districts as close to similar population as their neighbors. It's impossible to avoid, and he countered Senator Sandel's criticism of this by saying these are your deviation rules. And by your, he means the legislatures. They wrote these out last time around and did not change them this time. So if you don't like that, maybe change those. Probably too late at this point. But in the end, there are some surprises that we saw presented today. Though population has grown in Salt Lake County may actually lose one Utah State House representative to Utah County, where population didn't grow as fast. And that's a complicated mechanism that's causing that to happen there. But it's going to be controversial, and people are going to accuse lawmakers of gerrymandering on that because, of course, a House district in Utah County is going to be red, and a House district in Salt Lake County is going to be purple or blue. But if you look at the explanation of how populations have shifted and projections of where growth is going to happen, it does actually make sense to move a certain House representative from the Salt Lake County area to Utah County as those two areas continue in the Draper area to bleed together. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Again, I'll say this again. Appreciate listeners who've sent these questions in, giving me an excuse to get back to it, of course. I could talk about this all day, and we will talk about it for a full hour tomorrow with former Senator Hilliard here in the studio. He's currently in Salt Lake on Capitol Hill defending these maps submitted by the committee alongside other panel members. But he'll join us tomorrow here in the studio at 4, and we'll be able to take all of your questions. So appreciate you sending these now. These are my best attempts at answering them. Going to say it again, though. This is important. It's going to define for a lot of people whether or not you are in the same school district as you were before this is signed off on. Thousands of Utahns are going to find themselves in different school districts after this map is adopted. It's just the reality of the thing. So download the maps at URC, Utah Redistricting Commission, urc.utah.gov. That's the official site set up by the state for this voter-created independent panel. urc.utah.gov. You can download the maps submitted today. There are 12 of them. And you can also find them via links they've posted on their Twitter account, which is twitter.com/Utah Redistrict. The Legislative Committee's Twitter handle is Redistrict Utah. How confusing is that? But Utah Redistrict on Twitter, they've posted links to those maps as well. Download them, look them over, see how it might affect you and your family and your neighborhood. And if you don't like something you see, let your lawmakers know. That's going to be a big part of how they decide to vote or what they decide to agree to as these maps are finalized over the next week or two. So download the maps, look them over, contact your lawmakers if you have thoughts, and be a part of this. We'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
NMLS 1817019.
LendRight Mortgage declares freedom from high rates and closing costs with the introduction of our Freedom Loan. What is a Freedom Loan? 1, you pay 0 closing costs. 2, you get a rate that's the same or lower than the rate other lenders charge you thousands in points and fees to get. The choice is clear. Pay thousands more than you should with another lender, or get the same or lower rate and have the Freedom Loan cover 100% of your closing costs. Act now. Freedom Loan APRs are as low as 1.92% for 8 to 15-year terms and 2.67% for 16 to 30-year terms. Call 801-APPROVE or visit lendrightmortgage.com. Get a Freedom Loan and say no to high rates and closing costs. Call 801-APPROVE or visit lendrightmortgage.com.
This election, vote Keegan for Logan. With support from county and state leaders, Keegan Garrity understands the importance of working together while considering all perspectives. Keegan believes that by following smart growth principles, we can keep the city downtown while preserving the open spaces we love. Keegan is willing to engage with anybody, including those with opposing viewpoints. He's the type of guy you could share a Diet Coke with. Vote Keegan, a voice for the people. Paid for by the committee to elect Keegan Garrity.
Coming up on the Tuesday edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show, huge showdown in the Virginia governor's race. Terry McAuliffe versus Glenn Youngkin. Decision day is today, plus other elections across the country will bring you up to speed. Plus, Clay, what do you got?
Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida fighting battles every single day against the Biden administration. What is the absolute latest from the Sunshine State? We'll find out from Ron DeSantis. You need to be hanging with us. It's the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show, Tuesday. Don't miss it.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU. 102 FM and 610 AM.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. I was kind of hoping to have more time to dig into the details on this one, but maybe this is better because I can just tell everybody a little bit and then maybe you'll go experience it for yourself. But the Wall Street Journal has been, for a while now, doing something they've been calling the Facebook files. And this stems from these documents that were leaked by a former Facebook employee. She basically downloaded them and quit. She was planning to quit anyway, but she downloaded them and quit. She may actually face some jail time for that. I don't know. It wasn't a government agency. It was a private company, but they may decide to take her to court for that. Either way, they're out there. Facebook can't put the lid back on this one. And thousands of documents that showed, some of the major reporting that has been done so far showed that Facebook ignored its own rules for profit, that Facebook really has no idea what they're doing. That Facebook has been very misleading with the public many times over during both, public promotional campaigns, but also in testimony before Congress when they are speaking on the record. They basically lied, and the spokespeople doing so likely knew they were lying. Chance they didn't, but likely knew. And this is all revealed by all these internal documents that showed what internal conversations have been happening for years. One of the stories that you can listen to this all, by the way, the Wall Street Journal has a podcast also called The Facebook Files. And it's a nice recap of what's been written at the Wall Street Journal about this over the last few weeks. Check it out. And the reason I bring this up, we're going to talk about this on a future show with a guest from Utah State University who specializes in online security and behavior, what we put ourselves at risk to. I'll just put it this way. Really consider what you're posting and consider what apps are on your phone and what they're collecting. And then consider, what these companies claim to be all about versus what you keep reading again and again they are all about. And just be more conscious of that. That was my takeaway from reading some of this over the last week and listening to some of Wall Street Journal podcasts on the Facebook Files series. We're making a lot of money for companies like Facebook, and they're not being very careful with us. They're not even being honest with us half the time and what's happening with our data and everything they collect about us. And unless we put our feet down, they have no...
Both foot and feet.
Both foot and feet. They have no incentive to change as long as we're giving them the data. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.